One thing I always remembered to do was close the gate to my property when I left. I had a small little hunting cabin out in the woods. I'd stay there on weekends during hunting season. It was cold, and there wasn't much to do when I wasn't hunting, but I enjoyed my time there. One week, I had a long weekend off of work, and I took the advantage to go hunting as it was hunting season. When I arrived at my property, the first thing I noticed was that my gate was open. This pissed me off as someone had probably snuck in there and threw a party at my cabin. It had happened before, and like I said, I always close this. It's the one thing I make sure I do. I pulled up the long driveway to my cabin, and it wasn't trashed. It looked just the way I'd left it, which was a good thing, or it was a bad thing. I was hoping it was just a good thing, and maybe the gate had blown open. It had never blown open before, but there's a first time for everything. I went inside my cabin and noticed nothing was gone. I was relieved that no one had gotten in, but I was so wrong. I should have taken caution when my gate was open, because the thing that happened next could have ended my life. I came back from my tree stand to notice that the door to my cabin was open, which was definitely weird, because I was the only one out there, and I didn't ask any of my friends to come. When I went inside, the place was trashed. My gun was gone, and most of my bucks' heads off the wall were gone. I saw a man fleeing from the scene. I chased after him. I never caught him, but I called the police, and there wasn't much they could do about it. The cops did come, but like I said, they couldn't do anything as they didn't have the man in custody, and there's no proof that he did steal my stuff. I eventually got new stuff, but just knowing that that man could have easily killed me haunts me to this day. This is a story that happened when my neighbor's dog wouldn't leave me alone. It started off small, like when I'd leave my house to get my mail, he'd come and greet me. I'd pet him and throw him his stick if he brought one to me. But after that, it just started getting weird. He would not leave me alone. He'd come to my house every day, and I'd feed him. He looked skinny. I didn't know if the owner wasn't taking good care of him or not. The woman next door to me worked a lot. She worked all day. I always saw her car gone, but I noticed that her car was there. I thought maybe she started carpooling or something. I know that was a big thing these days. I just didn't understand. Her dog would not leave me alone. It started getting worse and worse every day. He'd come to my house at night begging for food and somewhere to sleep. I didn't want to let the dog in my house. I didn't want to look like I was trying to kidnap him or something. I didn't want the lady to get the wrong idea if she saw the dog walk into my house. So I put some blankets on the deck and let him sleep on there. I noticed, by a week of this happening, the dog had not been inside at all. His teeth were turning yellow, he was bone thin, and his eyes were almost bulging out of his head. He was bloody from walking around all day. I felt bad for the dog. I didn't know what was up. The lady should have been taking care of him. That's when I decided to let him in my house. I put him in the nice warm bathroom, as my bathroom had the most heat in it because it was a small room, and it was fall and pretty cold. I let him in there, and he would not leave after I put him in there. He sat by the heater and ate after I gave him food, and drank after I gave him water. He didn't want to leave. I was really starting to think that this lady abused this dog, and was only staying here because I was nice to him, and he was getting free food and water. I wanted to talk to the lady, but I didn't want her accusing me of anything, especially now that I had let the dog in my house. Every time I'd try and coax the dog out of my bathroom, he wouldn't do anything. He'd look at me and perk up his ears because he thought I was going to be giving him food, but I wasn't going to feed him anymore. I'd been feeding him for 2 weeks now, and he'd been living in my bathroom for about 4 days. I just wanted him gone. He gained his weight back, and his eyes didn't look like they were bulging out of his sockets anymore, and he wasn't bleeding anymore. I figured he was good to go home. I thought maybe the lady thought he was lost and didn't bother looking for him, because she thought he might have came back. By how long he was gone, she might have thought he was dead. Then, I tried to pull the dog out of my bathroom. I took him by the collar and pulled, and pulled, and pulled, but he ended up biting me at least 3 times. I was mad at this dog. I just wanted it gone, and I didn't want to have to call the pound and have any unnecessary drama between me and the lady. So I decided to go over to the woman's house and see if she'd help me get the dog out of my bathroom. When I arrived on her front porch, I saw that there was a dog door, and I figured that's how the dog got out and came over to my house. So, I knocked on the door and yelled that I have her dog, and if she wanted it back, he won't come out of my bathroom. But she didn't answer me. She didn't say anything. I jiggled at the knob to see if that'd get her attention, and I realized the door wasn't locked. I know it wasn't polite to walk into someone's house, but I was sick of this dog staying in my bathroom. He won't go outside to poop, so there's a bunch of poop in my bathroom. When I walked into her house, it was a mess. There was food everywhere and poop from the dog. It looked like someone hadn't been here for months. I walked around a bit, and when I walked into her living room, I saw the woman sitting on the couch. But she was dead. That's why the dog wanted to spend so much time with me. His owner was dead. I called the cops, and they escorted her body out of there. But this is something I'll never forget. This is the story of a man I lived with in college. He was really weird. Right now, we'll just call him Ron. I lived about a year in a dorm by myself before Ron moved in. I went to the office telling them I wasn't going to be able to pay my rent as easily as I used to, as I'd gotten a new job that paid less. So they suggested I got a roommate. So I posted an ad on the school bulletin board in the main lobby asking for a roommate, and I eventually got one. And as you figured out, it was Ron. Ron was weird. He was about 5'7", short for his age, red hair, and always wore weird clothes, like Hawaiian shirts with unmatching undershirts. And I swear, the whole half a year we lived together, he never changed his pants. He always had these stained and ripped blue jeans on, as far as I could ever remember him. At first, he just seemed like a normal geek. He had a spider for a pet, which he kept in his room so it didn't bother me, even though I had a huge fear of spiders. But one thing that did bother me was he'd always have blasting music. I blasted my music sometimes, but it wasn't when he was studying. I made sure he wasn't studying. But it seemed like he purposely did it when I was studying. It was loud and obnoxious, and even if I put my headphones in to listen to some chill-out music, all I could hear was his heavy metal blasting through my earbuds. I liked heavy metal, but it's not something you want to hear when you're trying to study for your midterm. It seemed to happen every day. I'd get home, I'd chill out for a while and watch TV. Then when he'd get back from his classes, I'd go and study, and then he'd blast his music. It was starting to piss me off, and I confronted him about it, but he didn't do anything. He said it's none of my business what he listens to. One day, Ron told me he was going to be working late, so I went into his room and stole his aux cord. But I found much more than just an aux cord. His room was messy and smelled like weed. I didn't have any problem with smoking weed, but I told him if he smoked weed not to do it in the dorm for the purpose that we could get kicked out. Ron had some very weird posters on the wall. Some of those gothic heavy metal bands from Finland who burnt churches and shit. Ron was starting to creep me out more and more every day. I also found a decent-sized collection of Chinese machetes. They were really creepy. and one of them looks like they had blood on it. I figured out where the blood came from. Once he was gone, I decided to go check out his spider. It was a tarantula. I went by it. I saw a bunch of headless mice, and I saw a fresh head inside the spider's case. Ron had been beheading these mice and feeding it to his fucking spider. This was scary, knowing that this was going on in the room right next to mine. Again, I didn't want to confront him about this, as it just caused unneeded drama, as I was in his room without his permission. A little backstory to this next part. About a week ago, I had my girlfriend stay a couple nights. It wasn't allowed, but she wasn't breaking any rules, really. I just had her stay here for a couple nights while she was painting her new living room. She lost her hairbrush, and she didn't think much of it, and she thought she might have left it somewhere that she didn't remember. But when I was in Ron's room, I found where that hairbrush went. It was sitting on his nightstand, and some of the hair was taken out and placed next to it. I don't know what Ron was doing with my girlfriend's hair, but let's just say I moved out of that dorm about a week later. I don't hear from Ron anymore. He tried to contact me on Facebook, but I never added him. He's just a really creepy man. Please, Ron, let's never meet again. Hey guys, just a quick question. What video do you think sounds better? This one, or my other ones? I used a different mic, and I was wondering if this one sounded better. So if it did, please leave a like, and tell me in the comments that it sounded better.